Howdy, folks. When was the book of Revelation written? It's an interesting question. According to most scholars today, it was written in the late 1st century, during the reign of the Emperor Domitian. According to this view, it was written about the year AD 96. But there's very good reason to think that it was written earlier than this. Quite a bit earlier. Here's why.
The first piece of evidence is something we read in Revelation 11, where John writes, "Then I was given a measuring rod, like a staff, and I was told, 'Rise up and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and those who worship there. But do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it is given over to the nations, and they will trample over the holy city for 42 months. Although Revelation sometimes talks about God's temple in heaven, it's clear that here it's talking about the temple in Jerusalem. That's why it speaks of the outer court being given over to the nations, the Gentiles, who will trample the holy city for 42 months. It also speaks of John measuring those who worship there. Nobody worshipped at the temple after the summer of AD 70, because that's when the Romans destroyed it. This tells us that Revelation was written before the summer of AD 70. But when? In Revelation 18, John sees the whore of Babylon, who is seated on a seven-headed beast. This beast is identified with the Roman Empire and specifically with its line of emperors. John is told, "This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen, 1 is, the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it also belongs to the 7, and it goes to perdition." That allows us to represent the line of kings like this. The first 5 have already fallen. They're no longer reigning. The 6th king is. He is currently reigning. The 7th has not yet come and will remain only a little while. And then the 8th, who has also not yet come, is somehow seen as a return of one of the 7. This indicates that Revelation was written in the reign of the 6th king. If we can identify who that is, then we can tell when the book was written. Can we do that? Since we have good reason to identify the beast with the pagan Roman Empire and its 1st century line of rulers, a logical way would be to start with Julius Caesar and proceed forward. If we take Julius Caesar as our starting point, we get this. The first 5 emperors, the ones who have already fallen, are Julius Caesar, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, and Claudius. They're the 5 who've fallen. The one who is would be Nero, the currently reigning emperor. The 7th king, who will remain only a little while, would then be Galba, and then the 8th king, who is somehow seen as a return of one of the 7, would be Otho. In this case, Revelation would be written during the reign of Nero, which was from AD 54 to AD 68. Likely, it would be written towards the end of that reign, after Nero had begun to persecute Christians after the Great Fire of Rome, which took place in July of AD 64. Galba would then be the short-reigned emperor, and he did reign only a short time, the 7 months between June of 68 and January of 69. Otho would then be the one who goes to destruction and who somehow could be seen as a return of one of the 7. That also fits. Otho had been a friend of Nero, and he reminded people of Nero. Upon becoming emperor, he even took the cognomen or nickname Nero. He set up Nero's statues again, reinstated Nero's officials, and announced his intention to finish building Nero's golden house. It could indeed seem as if Nero had returned. Otho also went to destruction. In the midst of civil war with the next emperor, Otho committed suicide in April, after only 3 months of reign. The idea that Revelation was written in the reign of Nero has much to say in its favor, but there is another view that may fit the data as well or better. One reason is that, although Julius Caesar was a famous Roman leader, he didn't actually have the title emperor. If the heads of the beast are identified with the line of Roman emperors, then we should start with the first emperor, who was Julius's successor, Augustus. In that case, the first 5 emperors, the ones who were fallen, would be Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. The sixth emperor, the one who is, would be Galba. The seventh, who will reign only a little while, would be Otho. And the eighth, who is somehow seen as a return of one of the seven, would be Vitellius. This would date the book of Revelation very precisely to the 7 months that Galba reigned between June of AD 68 and January of AD 69. Otho would then be the emperor who reigns for only a little while, which indeed he did, just 3 months. And it would make Vitellius the emperor who is seen as somehow a return of one of the seven and who goes to destruction. That also fits. Vitellius was also a friend of Nero, and upon becoming emperor, he celebrated Nero's memory and imitated his style of governance. He publicly offered funerary offerings to Nero, and at the accompanying banquet demanded that Nero's songs be played, at which point he was the first to applaud. He even jumped for joy. Otho also signaled his intention to outdo even Nero himself in one respect, saying that Nero's lavish golden house wasn't enough for him, and he needed better. He also went swiftly to destruction. After reigning 8 months, he was killed by the troops of his successor, the Emperor Vespasian.
We thus have 2 good possibilities for when the book of Revelation was written. Either it was written during the reign of Nero, likely between the Great Fire of Rome in July of AD 64 and Nero's suicide in June of AD 68. Or it was written during the reign of Galba, between June of AD 68 and January of AD 69. The evidence fits both scenarios rather well. If you like the information I've presented here, you should join my Secret Information Club. The Secret Information Club is a free service that I operate by email. I send out fascinating information about the Catholic faith. In fact, when you sign up, the very first thing you'll get is information from former Pope Benedict about what the book of Revelation means. He has some very interesting things to say, and if you'd like to find out what they are, you should sign up at www.secretinfoclub.com. Once again, that's www.secretinfoclub.com. Thank you.